Rebecca from the Nocturnal. How are you?
Becky back. Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You know what's crazy? That's the nickname I had a lot in high school.
Becky back. Put
Yes.
Becky back. It just jumps out at you.
So my first question is, what's something about the storyline or overall humor of the show that you think viewers are going to enjoy?
Well, I think that I think they're going to be guessing a lot. It's not easy to predict what exactly is going to happen. So I think that's going to give them a little tease, give them a little something to munch on. And then the comedy. I mean, we got these actors. Claudia. It's amazing. She's well aware of who she is as a comedian. Scott MacArthur is an improv genius. Real Battle is a comic who, we were doing shows around New Orleans while we were filming there, and so we were going toe to toe. It's just so much to mine and dive in there and consume.
Right, right. Okay. And I love the dynamic between your character and Camille's because it's not typically one that's shown a lot on screen. So, what was it like working with Stephanie? And did you already know how to do sign language, or is that something that you learned for the show?
I know how to sign the alphabet, and I can yeah, and numbers pretty much. So uh, I had an ASL teacher. His name was Rick. He would help me out. He would come by the apartment and show me, and then I would record him. I record me doing it, and then I got to set, and Stephanie would help me out if there were things that she wanted to change. So I had to. It was very challenging. I found the rhythm towards the end there, but it was challenging. But we want to make sure we got that right, and so because the viewers who respond to that are they appreciate that, what I'm saying. So it was like, let's give them something and include everybody. So there was that. It was very challenging, but I'm glad it's a part of it. So glad.
Definitely, definitely. And throughout the show, your character, Craig, is consistently trying to get a loan and trying to get funding for his dream business. So, have you ever been in a situation where you had a dream and it looked like people weren't as supportive as they should, or they didn't see that you were putting your best foot forward? Like, what's something that you had to do or say to yourself to keep yourself motivated?
um yeah, Hollywood. It didn't always feel like it was going to work out. I was just telling a story. I was on a treadmill one day, and I stopped and I was looking at the TV, and it just became absurd to me. I was like, "You're trying to fit into that box," you know. And then I said, "Yep, I sure am." And I start going back. I think it was a slow walk treadmill I was doing, but still, I got back on and I kept going. There's a I don't stop. It's my parents have always, they were successful. Mother teacher, father lawyer. You weren't leaving that house without getting a degree or learning how to play the piano. So it's always, especially like being a musician. You start a piece, you finish it. So that helped me learn to start something and figure it out and finish it.
Definitely, definitely. And what do you think your character, Daryl from The Office, would say to your character from Killing It after hearing your plan to get the $20,000?
He said, "Hey man, come work in the warehouse, man. This is a better way. You're not gonna get 20 grand right away, but you know what? Come here. It's gonna be better than
All right. It's a
tread,
work in progress.
trudging through the swamp."
It's all a work in progress. That's it. You got to be
Right.
consistent.
Exactly.
I loved your character because it was very authentic. And I've seen you in The Office and I've seen you in Killing It. And I'm like, you are consistent. It's very authentic and you're very friendly the way that your character is presented.
Thank you. I consider myself America's teddy bear. So it's that's how I come across. And thank you. I'm glad you feel that way.
Of
It's
course.
that's all. You have to be. George Burns said it. He said, oh, he has a great quote. He said the most important thing is sincerity.
Mm.
If you can fake that, you're good.
Sometimes you do need to fake it. But thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
How are you guys?
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So, my first question is, the show is different from a lot of shows that are out right now, which is what I think is very unique for viewers when they watch this. So, how did you guys come up with the concept of the show?
Well, that's a great question. We knew we wanted to work with Craig, and we kicked around a few ideas, but really right from the start, this idea had been the strongest contender. And Luke 10 years ago had read an article. It'd be funny if you'd written it. Yeah. Read an article about these snake hunts, and we'd really been interested in doing a show about class and about money and about the American dream and sort of the fiction of being that everyone can just pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And so the Craig of it, the themes of it, and that article all kind of melded together and generated this idea. Yeah.
All right. And this show takes on conversations about social issues, animal overpopulations, and incorporates like a familial aspect. So even though it ties in issues that people deal with every day, how do you feel like situations like this and like the comedic aspect of it helps promote a more of a better conversation or deeper conversations?
I mean, yeah, I think our feeling was you want to sort of tackle some big issues and you want to sort of like open up a conversation, but they're weighty issues and like often, even though I think they're very relatable, people's like struggles, it can be like miserable. So the question for us is like, how do you make a show that's sort of like socially relevant but is fun and people want to watch? And that's the real challenge, because it's like it's easy, not easy enough, but it's like there are a lot of shows I find that are like about serious things, and I hear about them and I'm like, I'm sure that's really good. I just don't want to watch it because it's going to make me sad, and I'm really tired at the end of the day and I don't want to be sad. And so our question was like, how can you sort of get into some of that, but also just have a show that's like wild and weird and funny and engaging. And that's the real challenge.
And you mentioned earlier, you guys both worked with Craig previously for Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So how did that collaboration come about?
Well, he was on the show every year. There was a Doug Judy episode, a Pontiac Bandit episode. And he brought so much to the character. And I think he really liked the way we wrote it. And so wrote for him. And so in the last season, he and his manager, Mark Schulman, who's a executive producer on the show, came to me and said, hey, we'd love to work with you more and with Luke. And so we sort of began a process of trying to figure out the perfect show for Craig. And we succeeded. We found the perfect show for him. No, but, and so, it was when somebody of his talent and wants to work with you, then he was a person I wanted to work with, and so it was great. It was just such an opportunity.
And we talked about the comedic aspect. So when creating a show that centers around that sort of deadpan humor, where it's witty, but it's also like relatable, but also has that dry aspect, what's something you try to keep in mind when pairing it with unexpected scenes?
I mean, I would just say my philosophy on all that stuff is always my philosophy. Let me expound on my philosophy. I just feel like, as you say about unexpected, I think the thing about comedy is there's lots of comedy works in lots of different ways. But in general, I think that the easiest bet is like comedy is you laugh the most when something unexpected happens. Like comedy, it has to be like surprising. And one way for things to be surprising is if there's also a sort of grounded world with rules that you obey. And so one thing to do is like when you make a comedy and everything's a joke and everyone is silly and everyone is playing a broad character, then the jokes that come out of that often aren't very surprising because you're situating the audience in a world where they're expecting everything to be a joke. And I think for me, often the things I find the funniest are jokes that come out of shows where also they feel real and it doesn't feel like everything is going to be a joke, and there's real emotion and there's real heart and there's some like seriousness. And then when something funny happens or something unexpected, it's so funny and it's so unexpected. And that's the thing we tried to do, is create a world that felt real and grounded, but also then have these just wild, moments, just because I think they really will pop as being, out of left field for people. That's our hope.
Definitely. There was a lot of shock factors that was happening. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't stop laughing.
That's so nice. That's great.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for joining me today.
Hi.
What's up?
Thanks for having us.
Of course, of course. So my first question is, what's something about the storyline or the overall humor of the show that you think viewers will enjoy?
I think it's absurd. I think it's an absurd look at a very real world. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I was amazed to learn upon reading the pilot that this snake hunting contest is actually a real thing that exists in Florida. And once I heard that, I was kind of hooked because I thought, oh, this is great. It's a very specific world with huge universal themes. And so I was all in and very excited when it worked out to become a part of it.
I think Scott Dancer was perfect. I do hope that people, I mean, the main thing is I hope people will find the show really funny, but I think what's really exciting about it is it's got these really ambitious storylines and, themes, and like you would never really guess where even where each episode ends up. It's like, I think it's a really surprising show.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think what people are going to be shocked to learn is that, they're all kind of in the same place. They're all trying to reach this goal financially, and they all do it in certain ways. Like my character Isaiah, he breaks some laws. Claudia's character is kind of a liar. Scott's a kind of a bad dad, overbearing. We're all hustling to win, but we're all taking different approaches. We're all from different backgrounds. We all got different problems, but we're all trying to get to that goal of being financially successful. And I think anyone from anywhere, from any walk of life, can kind of relate to at least one of the characters on the show. Yeah. And I think that makes it more personal to an actual audience. And then we all got jokes. We all got punches.
I definitely agree with that. I think that the entire show, because of the background personal issues, it just gives viewers a better in-depth of what your characters or who your characters are.
Yeah.
So my next question is, how were you all able to keep your composure? Because I feel like if I was on set, I would have burst out laughing through almost every scene. How were you guys able to keep that composure and get through every scene?
Well, I don't know. Often I did laugh, but you also just want to get out of the swamp because you're just in a swamp. So if you start laughing, you'll just have to do it longer. So that was really my main incentive, was just to get out of the swamp.
No, it was hard. I did a diner scene with Rel and Craig, which I remember just made me laugh. Just a lot of times it's not even what's being said that makes me laugh. It's just looking into the eyes of particularly those two guys and just knowing that they're so smart and witty and funny. I could only imagine what their inner monologue would be, and that would always kind of break me. And but it was if you take it seriously, it kind of hopefully works out.
I was told if I broke the scene by laughing, they would dock my pay. So that's how I kept it straight. I don't know what their experience was like.
All right. And my last question is, I'm absolutely terrified of snakes. So while watching the show, I was squeamish a lot. So do you guys have any memorable snake moments that happened while filming the show?
There was
my mom's really scared of snakes, so she's having real difficulty watching the show as well. So I just want to apologize to you and my mom, but I think it's important for you guys to keep in mind it's usually absolutely not a real snake.
There was a real snake while we were in the swamp. The snake wranglers, there was a group of people that were in charge of keeping us safe, and they did an incredible job because one particular day they did remove about a 5-foot water snake from the proximity, as well as a 6-foot gator. And they were able to do that. I mean, they were just so spot on. But, when you look at that and then you're standing next to them pretending to be a snake guy, it kind of puts things in perspective, certainly.
Definitely. Riley, you have anything to add?
No, I was not around anything. Snake. I'm gonna keep it quiet on this one.
All right. Thank you guys for joining me today. I love the dynamic between your character and Craig because it's typically one that's not seen or shown a lot on screen. So what was it like working with Craig, and how important do you think that familial dynamic is when discussing representation?
Well, it was definitely a great experience working with Craig. He's hilarious. He's an easy person to get along with. He can make people laugh. And so he was very chill, and I'm the same way. So that dynamic was great. That was my first impression of just being around him and working with him. The family dynamic of Camille and Craig with their daughter in the mix really made it for a complicated and bit of a tense situation. But by the same token, Camille is very sweet and kind. Craig has had all of these ideas that she has patiently supported him with over the years. She's definitely tired of it, but she understands that the dynamic of her daughter really looking up to Craig, and she wants to set a good example as a mother, and an ex-wife too. And I think it really mimics today what we see in blended families. So it's a good example on how to get along, how to respect one another, how to communicate clearly, especially as someone deaf and, being in a relationship with someone who can hear. That's not necessarily an easy relationship to have, but it's great to show that dynamic and realize that even though it's tough, you can work it out.
Definitely, definitely. And the show is different from a lot of roles that you've done or played in the past. So what about this show interested you the most?
This story is extremely unique. Craig is really trying to make that $20,000 by killing snakes, to fulfill his dream. And I think that it will pull audiences in. It's such a unique story. And it actually happens in Florida. It actually is something that happens there. I had no clue about it prior to working on the show. So it's educational too.
I had no clue either. I was just as surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and what was your initial reaction when you were reading the script?
When I was reading the script, I was like, I'm not sure I feel comfortable even auditioning. Is this too much? Am I the right person for this? Should I even go for it? Because I've only acted on shows that are dark or dramatic, even some horror. That was my comfort zone. This was definitely out of that zone. It was something different. So I thought, should I give it a try? But the experience of adding more to the range of my acting talent, I thought, let's go for it. And it's been worth it for sure.
Right. And what advice would you have for those who may want to follow in your footsteps?
My advice would be, don't give up. It's not easy, but keep going. Just like if you had to climb a mountain, you're going to experience barriers. You'll have a lot of people who tell you no. But you got to keep going. You have to keep going. You have to make sure that you have the right people around you, those who believe in you. And that can be the motivation for you to continue to pursue your dreams.
Amazing. And were there any behind the scenes moments that really stuck with you?
I would say it's not really about the people, but I would say the food in New Orleans. Woo! It was so amazing. So amazing. I mean, it wasn't always the healthiest, but hey, I was there. I said, why not? The wonderful food there. That's what I remember. I remember the smell of it. I remember all of the seafood. Ooh, I do miss that. That was one thing that was memorable for sure. I enjoyed that.
Oh, that's so, I've always wanted to go to New Orleans and try the food.
Oh, you should. It was a great experience.
What was your favorite meal that you had there?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard one. They have something very odd, alligator. Did you know that? They make alligator out there?
No.
It tastes like chicken though. It tastes like chicken, right? It's kind of crazy, but it was actually quite good. I was surprised myself that I was surprised that it was so good. There were two restaurants. One was called The Butcher and then The Commons. And they had a bunch of different meats with rice. Some were, various spices and whatnot, and very delicious restaurants.
I'll definitely have to try it. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Yes, definitely do that. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hey,
Hi.
hey.
So my first question is, without giving too much away, what episode or moment in the series do you think fans will be most excited to see?
I think it's hard to pinpoint one moment, but I feel like just every part where they show the animals, I think that's just funny. Like, because every time somebody's like, oh shoot, like every time someone will be like, no matter what type of animal it is, I just love, like, every time I'm around and they talk about it, everybody's like, it's so funny just to see like the reactions, even if it's not even the word, it's just the reactions, just like.
It's like Jet said, it's really difficult to just pinpoint one moment, but I feel, at least from, everything that I know, I feel like the big kind of episode is episode 4, because there's a common enemy that needs to be defeated.
Got you. I know exactly what scene you're talking about too. So on screen, both of your characters are the children in the show, and you're both sort of the level-headed voices when the adults are going crazy. So off the screen, what was it like working with everyone, and what was a typical day like on set?
Watching Scott do about 250 push-ups. That was pretty typical. Just looking over, Scott's just going ham, getting his body workout in.
I think one of the most funny things is, like, most of the time, like, I can't even think of a dull moment on set. So me and Craig, we have a game. So one person will go, man, look at that car, even if we're inside, like, it doesn't matter, whatever. Look at that car. And then I'll be like, oh man, you talking about when you cut yourself and it's permanent? And we're like, nah, man, that's a scar. And I'm talking about, I'm talking about when you go a really long distance. And I'll be like, nah, man, you're talking about far. And it just goes so on and so forth until you can't do it anymore. And whoever can't do it loses.
See, that's a cute game to like keep the momentum going on set, because I feel like after long shooting days, it gets really repetitive sometimes. So at least you got that moment of like, jokes and fun in the way as well.
Mm-hmm.
And were there any behind the scenes moments that really stuck with both of you?
Okay, so sometimes, like, Mo, he was the director, and he was so nice. Like I always say, like, they teach me so many like good, valuable lessons that aren't just applied to acting. But he's such a nice person. And I walked in this scene, no spoilers, but I walked in and I was like, it wasn't anything inappropriate. I was just like, what is going on? Because it's my last day. And I walk in, I'm just like, and I walk in and I'm like, I was going to say goodbye, but from the looks of this set, y'all are just saying hello, because it looks like this is a long scene. They're like, yeah. And I said goodbye to everybody, but then you just said such a nice thing. And I was like, wait, you live in Atlanta? And so now we're always like, I wonder if we're going to see Mo around.
The best behind the scenes stuff was, Craig. You hear a lot of horror stories, especially being from the Southeast. You hear a lot of horror stories about people in LA are rude, they're mean, they're slightful, all this stuff. But Craig was so kind and so genuine. Like, I'd be hanging out in my hotel room, have nothing going on one day, just get a text message. Hey, we're meeting for dinner. Come on, let's go. I'm like, okay, I'll go hang out. Sure, why not? Instead of just being co-stars, it's like being a family, and it's really nice. Like, I'm not afraid of being around them, if that makes any sense.
Definitely. And my last question, it's gonna make you think a little bit. If you could describe the show in 3 words, which words would you use?
Broke, reptile, journey.
Okay.
Okay. All right. American Dream. I guess that's 2. And hysterical. I mean, or ridiculous.
I definitely agree. I agree with both of you. I definitely see. I definitely see it. I would definitely describe the show as that too. I was like, when I was describing to my friends, I'm like, those are exactly the words that I use, especially broke, especially the broke part.
Broke, but that's part of the American dream. So
okay, that's all we can do. Thank you guys so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.